Right, let's discuss some of the main players then. Shakalaka Boom Boom is coming up next. Commentator's nightmare, this one in a sense, but I tell you, there's probably a payoff line to be delivered if this guy should do just that. John, first of all, seems to me we don't quite know about this horse's stamina yet, but he's improved since stepped up to 3 miles plus.
Exactly. This is a horse who's campaigned over 2.5 miles as a novice. But since in the last year or so, he's gone up to 3 miles plus. His 2 best runs have been at the furthest he's been. This win here at Cheltenham, when he beat the likes of Montperain and Nokara Bow, but also last spring, it's a bit of a forgotten race, but he went over to Punchestown and won a valuable big field handicap over there. I think Barry Geraghty looking likely to ride him is a massive bonus in the race.
Looks like his jumping's really coming together as well, Steve. Like the way he can fiddle when he needs to.
Yeah, he's got field in big. You know, he's got form in big fields as well, which is a plus. Yeah, like we said about so many horses, the last mile is a concern. But if you were looking at him, it's just as, you could easily argue that you might improve a bit for it, because he's improved so far with the step up to 3.25 miles. So I think he's likely to stay. Not certain, but likely to stay.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And we're talking about mainly we're talking about horses who are sort of 10, 11, some of the main fancies. He's an 8-year-old. He could be improving, maybe approaching his prime. Now, Shakalaka Boom Boom's form ties in quite closely with another we're going to discuss now, and that is Calgary Bay. No finer looking horse in the field, that's for sure. And suddenly, he's looked a bit revitalised, John, this season.
He has. He's a horse who's always been very highly regarded. He fell at I think at the 4th last year under Hayden Frost. This year, Dominic Ellsworth gets on him. He's won his last couple of races, but he's gone up an awful lot in the weight. And for me, his stamina isn't assured, and he's rather too close in the weight to the likes of Synchronised.
Some will sort of go back maybe a year or two, Steve, and wonder if he's got the heart, the temperament, the character for a national.
Yeah, I would certainly have thought that then. To be fair to him, I think he's tough enough. I mean, when he won the Sky Bet this year, I think he's tough enough. I have big doubts about whether he'll get home. Basically, I think I think 4.5 miles will stretch him.
Good jumper though, isn't he?
Very good jumper, and as you say, he's a gorgeous looking horse, but he's a good jumper who fell last year. Well, back to our early discussion.
Dominic Ellsworth has got the ride on him, and he'll be dreaming on Friday night of big race success. What about Planet of Sound we should touch on? He's a Grade 1 winner in the field. Those are thin on the ground outside of your top weight. Synchronised, the Gold Cup winner. He did that in Punchestown a couple of seasons ago, of course. He's run and had some time off the track, but we saw him on Racing UK at Kempton, didn't we, in that Racing Plus chase. It's a solid sort of handicapping effort, Steve.
Yeah, and he ran second in the Hennessy. So he goes well fresh. Again, he's been trained for the Grand National. That's been the plan. This was his run before it. I think he's got stamina to prove myself. He's 3 miles on a flat track, and even Newbury. I don't think the Hennessy's always a big test of stamina. It's a flat track. I know Aintree is a flat track, but it's a mile and a quarter further, and that will be my worry with him, is whether he'll get home. I think he's a pretty good jumper in the main. Wouldn't be surprised if for a circuit and a bit he gives Richard Johnson a really good spin. Whether he'll get 4.5 miles, I've got my doubts.
John, you're as doubtful about that issue.
Yeah, he's got big field handicap form, which is always a bonus, I think, here, but he's never convinced me as a horse who's going to appreciate 4 miles plus. So for that reason, I think I'll leave him alone. But he does similar sort of form he brings to the table as What's Up Boys, the horse he mentioned earlier. But I'm not too sure if he's a real 4.5 mile national horse.
Okay, what about for the North? Malcolm Jefferson had 2 winners at the Cheltenham Festival. I don't think he'd trade him in, but he'd go close if he could win the National, of course, with According to Pete, who's already won a couple of the most historic races on the Northern calendar this season, Steve.
He's 11 now, and he's as good as ever. If you look at on the figures, there's no question of that, but he's got a career high mark to defend. He's to fly, I beg your pardon, and that's what's going to make life difficult. And some of the racing at Haydock this year has taken place in really bad ground, and he certainly handles that very well. I don't know, I just can't see, he's not got the profile of a national winner for me. He's a really likeable horse who's in great form, but he's going to have to put up his best ever effort to win it.
John, he won the Royal America, and then he won this Peter Marsh as well. Strikes me that he's a horse who sort of likes time to organise himself, and I'm not sure he's going to get that at Aintree at all.
I'm not too sure the whole hurly-burly will suit the horse, plus the fact that he needs soft ground surely these days to show his best form, and unless the heavens open over the next week or so, I just don't think he'll have his ideal conditions.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Perleyman, you can see running on in the closing stages. Pearly Steps, I should say. Yeah, Perleyman, there might be a doubt about the trip. Pearly Steps, that was Steve who put me off. He said that earlier on, Perleyman.
Did I?
Pearly Steps, you did. You mispronounced it earlier on. You completely tucked me away. Pearly Steps is a doubtful runner for next Saturday's big race. Mon Mom, winner, of course, 3 years ago, placed in a Gold Cup. Is there any light still in that fire, John?
He actually ran very well at Cheltenham on New Year's Day, but that wasn't one of Cheltenham's strongest contests. I think he's had his day in the sun, but he's a fantastic goal campaigner anyway, and he's a sort of horse who can jump round and give his jockey a fantastic ride and probably come 7th or 8th at best.
You see it that way as well, Steve?
I think exactly that way, for love. I think he'll probably finish. I think he just isn't quite as good as he was. This, I think, almost flatters to deceive here. His subsequent runs have been poor, and I just can't believe he's as good as he was, when he won in 2009.
What strikes you when you look back on sort of results of the last decade or so? I think it's the sort of his 100 to 1 win is sort of out of left field, really, isn't it? I mean, if favourites have won 3 of the last 7, I know they're 7 and 10 to 1 shots, but generally those around sort of 9 to 16 to 1 is where you're looking at, really.
It's a compressed handicap, isn't it, these days? The weight range is nothing like it was when we were harking back to olden times. It was nothing like that. So I think that's I think they are going to be less likely. It's such a valuable race. It's a limited handicap, effectively, and so you're not going to get too many 100 to 1 shots.
Yeah, I think that's the point. It's worth more than the Gold. It's £1 million race now. It's worth more than the Gold Cup.